Welcome to our next installment of our midweek Bible study. We're going over the story of Joseph this week. And so, Chad, would you go ahead and start reading in Genesis for us?
Yeah, start in chapter 37 at the top. Jacob lived in the land of his father's sojournings, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was pasturing the flock with his brothers. He was a boy with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought a bad report of them to their father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any other of his sons, because he was the son of his old age. And he made him a robe of many colors. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peacefully to him.
All right, so this is the beginning of the story, and the story goes on really for the rest of the book of Genesis, and so we don't have time to read all of it. So we'll have to just kind of fill in from here on out. But here at the very beginning, we have some problems, and one of the things that we see often in Scripture is a little bit of a dysfunctional family situation going on here. We have a son who's the favorite, and quite obviously the favorite, has been put in charge of his brothers, even though many of them are older than he is. What do you make of all of the dysfunction that we see in the biblical families?
They're human beings. They're inclined to it just like we are. Not a whole lot different than us, I think.
I also find it interesting that, obviously we're talking about going from a family to a nation, and it kind of seems like maybe not the best foundation to get from family to nation.
Right. Yeah, it's, the Bible's very clear-eyed about a lot of things, and one of the lessons that we learn over and over again is that God's not using these people because they're perfect, and might not even be the best available. But he's the ones that they are the ones that he's chosen. And so, once again, he's going to do something amazing with some pretty shoddy materials, I think we could say.
Shoddy.
Well, one of the things that we have to encounter here is the idea of this being the favorite son, and that being expressed in a coat of many colors. And so I would think that a lot of people, non-Christians, would read that detail, that he's got this coat of many colors, and just kind of brush past it. But what's the significance here? Why are we being told that he's got this coat of many colors?
Well, what I think, it's not like his dad just could go down to Walmart and buy this coat of many colors. Clothing was expensive, and getting it of many colors even more so. But also it gives him a distinction in the family, and kind of it denotes a certain level of identity of who he is in the family.
Yeah, back then, it's not, dyes are hard to come by, and getting a coat that's dyed a lot of different colors. Could have been it was a tie-dye coat. So as far as the coat of many colors, there's a lot going on in the beginning of the story that then comes to fruition later on. So not only does Joseph bring a bad report about the rest of his brothers, he's basically, they're goofing around, they're not watching over the livestock well, whatever it is, that we don't know the nature of the report other than the fact that he's basically just ratted them out. So we have a situation where he's ratted them out, and he's also the favorite, and he's one of the youngest, and this is just piling up. But then, looking at the story, what else does Joseph add to the mix of problems?
His dreams.
His dreams. Okay, so Joseph has these dreams, and what's the problem with these dreams as far as Joseph's life is concerned?
It shows him in a position of authority over his brothers.
And his father. His father, too. Doesn't his
Yeah,
father say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically he has these dreams where the sun, moon, and 11 stars are bowing down to him, or sheaves of wheat are bowing down to him. And those are very clearly, in the ancient worldview, a picture of his family, his mother and father, and the brothers bowing down to him. And that's not something. It's one of those dreams that if you have it, you keep it to yourself. And he's got two of these dreams, and the idea of two witnesses is always important,
yeah.
and so there's a sense in which he's had these dreams, and it's hard to say with him. Is he just kind of rubbing it in? Is he just really kind of socially inept? But something's not right here, and it clearly leads to some problems. And some of what could be happening here is that this is the social skill that you develop when you're dad's favorite.
Obviously, there's something wrong with it, because didn't even his dad rebuke him a little bit? Not just his brothers?
Yeah. And so even his dad finds it kind of unappealing, which is, I mean, his dad would have to say something at that point of basically, hey, Dad, you're going to bow down to me. It doesn't matter whether you're their favorite or not. At some point, Dad's got to say, hey, this is going too far. So what do you guys see happening here in the Bible setting up this story this way, where you have this kid that's really full of himself and or at least appears that way, or either that or completely socially inept. From the standpoint, if you were writing a script, this is a pretty good, and knowing the rest of the story, this is a pretty good setup.
Sure.
So why is the Bible setting it up this way?
Well, I think one of the things that's important to the story is the development of Joseph, and how some of the trials and tribulations he experiences does develop, him in character and skill set and things of his sort for what he's going to accomplish in the future.
Yeah, I think you have a great setup here as far as you have Dad's favor being bestowed and a coat of many colors being bestowed, when we don't see that there's any reason for that. It's not. It should be representative of glory and accomplishment, because remember, back then the clothing is representative of who you are. It's representative of your station, your position, your authority, your accomplishments. It's kind of like generals wear their uniforms and they have the fruit salad and all the awards that they have on the side there. That's kind of the way that it worked back then. What we see with generals is a holdover from the ancient world. Not that they just went around wearing medals, but clothing was really important for a symbol, a representation of who you were. And one of the things that's really I think instructive for us here in understanding the way that we relate to God and see Him. God's a father through and through in the Bible, and we see here a really interesting contrast between a human father and our heavenly Father, in that without really any accomplishments, we have Jacob being the favorite and being given a position of authority and given symbols of glory, and we have a father that seems, even though there's an element of rebuke that's going on with his son when he goes too far, he seems reluctant to really bear down on his son, to the point where the other brothers feel like they have to do it. And that's interesting, because God's more than willing to put Joseph through all that is required to actually give him glory. It's one thing to take on the trappings of glory, and it's one thing to bestow on your child the trappings of glory. It's another thing to love your child enough to let them go through the challenges, the difficulties, the setbacks, all the things that need to be gone through in order to actually achieve glory. So one of the things that's instructive for us is just understanding or seeing the contrast here and seeing God's view of which one of these elements really has value. Is it the outward trappings and appearance? Is it the fruit of glory, or is it the root of glory? Is it the actual the character and the disposition, the virtues that actually bring glory?
Well, it's funny, because in a sense you might look at this and think that God kind of set Jacob up a little bit, because God gives him the dreams, right? And God probably has an idea, an inkling of how he's going to respond with those dreams. and it's his brother's response. They call him a dreamer from this point on, and eventually, which lead kind of to some of the things he goes through that develop his character.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, it's God. I think it's a perfect setup, because without all of this, I don't think you get such a. The response of his brothers seems a little bit over the top to us, but you have to understand that we're getting a couple sentences out of years of family relationship, but their response is, let's kill him, which I mean.
This is amazing, because we're 36 chapters into the Bible in the book of Genesis here, and we've had Cain and Abel,
yes,
Jacob and Esau now, and it's pretty amazing. Some issue with brothers here.
Right. It's the dream that Joseph is given, his announcement of the dream to his family, and then the response by the brothers is, well, we'll see about your dreams then. So they actually set off to make sure his dreams don't take place, and end up setting off the chain of events that makes his dreams real and take place, right?
Yeah.
Which is, it's great the way that God sets this all up. It's like, I'm going to give Joseph these dreams, and if he just had the sense to keep them to himself, none of this might have, it probably wouldn't, none of it would have happened. And yet he doesn't have the sense to do that, so he tells his brothers, and then they in turn decide, well, we'll see about those dreams, and they're actively trying to stop them, and they decide to kill him, but rather than kill him, they decide, well, there's money to be made in selling him off into slavery. And again, set up the events that make all this happen. It's a very, it's great writing, and I'm not saying that as far as it being faults. I'm saying that God's great at this.
Yeah, and everyone wins at the end.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, everyone's better off.
Yeah.
Clearly, there's some difficulty that is endured, and I'm not suggesting there isn't pain or suffering, but it leads to goodness for not just the family, but the nation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the coat of many colors here. What do we make of that as far as biblical symbolism?
I don't know if this is accurate, but I was thinking of the priest's garb and how there's just the variety and the variation of materials and color.
I think that's a great way to.
Sure, then I'm right. I'll take it.
I think that the robes of glory and beauty are definitely something that's in mind here, and really what that shows is it shows dominion over kind of all of the earth. And I think that if you're a priest, you probably, there's some seriousness in putting those on, because you're going to go serve in the temple, and the temple again is a picture of the cosmos, but I'm sure that there's there's a weight to that, because you're serving in God's temple, and or God's tabernacle, and that He doesn't take that lightly. People have died.
I was going to say, isn't there like an implication that if they're not wearing these garments and they go before God, that they will die?
Oh yeah, it's the only thing that protects them.